The night of the 22nd of July, 1944. Soldiers of the Red Army come upon Majdanek, the first major Nazi camp to be liberated, located in German-occupied Poland. This event becomes one of the most significant moments in the history of World War II and the Holocaust, as only after the liberation of the concentration camps, the full extent of Nazi crimes is finally exposed to the world. Soviet officials invite journalists to inspect the camp and to see for themselves the evidence of the horrors that have occurred there. As Allied troops move across Europe against Nazi Germany in 1944 and 1945, they encounter concentration camps, mass graves, and other sites of Nazi crimes. Among them is Auschwitz, the largest of the extermination centers, located in German-occupied Poland, which the Soviet forces liberate on the 27th of January 1945. It is estimated that a minimum of 1.3 million people were deported to this camp between 1940 and 1945, and of these, at least 1.1 million were murdered. One of the former Nazi commandants of the aforementioned camps, who is responsible for these atrocities, is Arthur Liebehenschel. Arthur Liebehenschel was born on the 25th of November 1901 in Posen, today's Polish Poznań, then part of the German Empire. After completing 8 years of elementary school, Liebehenschel went on to attend a commercial college for 3 years. He studied economics and public administration. Because of his young age, he did not serve in World War I. He was employed by the Poznań Railway Directorate, but in January 1919, he left Poznań and enrolled in independent paramilitary units, the Freikorps. Composed primarily of World War I veterans returning from the war, the Freikorps fought against communists and other groups they believed were responsible for German defeat. On the 14th of December 1927, Liebehenschel married Anna Agnes Gertrud Baum. Their marriage produced 4 children. Liebehenschel served in the German armed forces, which he left after 12 years in October 1931, with the rank of Oberfeldwebel, the equivalent of a master sergeant. The following year, Liebehenschel joined the Nazi Party. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi Party came into power in January 1933. The first concentration camp, Dachau, was established in March of the same year, less than 2 months after Hitler became the Chancellor. The Nazi camp system began as a system of repression directed against political opponents of the Nazi state. In the early years of the Third Reich, the Nazis imprisoned primarily communists and socialists. Later, the regime also began to imprison those whom it designated as racially or biologically inferior, especially the Jews. In 1934, Liebehenschel joined the SS. The SS was originally established as Adolf Hitler's personal bodyguard unit, but it became both the elite guard of the Nazi Reich and Hitler's executive force, prepared to carry out all security-related duties without regard for legal restraint. In the SS, Liebehenschel served in the Death's Head units, which owed their name to the skull and crossbones symbol worn on the right collar of their uniforms. The Death's Head units, established in 1934 by Theodor Eicke, the first Commandant of Dachau and later inspector of concentration camps, was an independent unit within the SS responsible for administering the Nazi concentration and extermination camps throughout Germany and later in occupied Europe. In 1936, 2 years after Liebehenschel became the adjutant in the Lichtenberg concentration camp, he was transferred to the concentration camp's inspectorate in Berlin. The Second World War began on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. On the 30th of January 1941, Arthur Liebehenschel was promoted to SS Obersturmbannführer, a rank equivalent to lieutenant colonel. In this position, Liebehenschel issued an order that SS members involved in executions and nominated for the War Merit Cross should under no circumstances have their actions referred to as executions. Instead, these should be described as carrying out tasks important to the war effort. On the 1st of December 1943, Arthur Liebehenschel was appointed commandant of the Auschwitz concentration camp complex, succeeding Rudolf Höss, the commandant of the camp from 1940 to 1943. Located in German-occupied Poland, Auschwitz consisted of 3 camps: Auschwitz I, or main camp, the Auschwitz-Birkenau killing center, also referred to as Auschwitz II, and Auschwitz III, or Monowitz, to which all the industrial sub-camps in the Auschwitz complex were subordinated. The Auschwitz camp complex also included numerous sub-camps. The majority of these sub-camps were located in the region around Auschwitz. According to prisoners, Liebehenschel made some partial improvements to the horrific conditions in the main camp. He introduced a whole new order in the camp and eliminated the abuse of prisoners perpetrated by the SS men, capos, and block leaders. He generally relaxed the regime in the camp, removed all professional criminals who wore green triangles from the positions of capos and block leaders, and appointed political prisoners in their place. The regular selections in Block 11, which often led to executions in front of the death wall, were discontinued. Liebehenschel ordered the demolition of the standing cells, tiny spaces with no room to sit or lie down, where prisoners had previously been confined as punishment. He also issued a general amnesty for prisoners held in the bunker and revoked the order to shoot any escaped prisoners who were recaptured. Under Liebehenschel, there were no public executions in the camp. As Felix Miwik, an Auschwitz survivor, later testified, Liebehenschel's changes were like a whitewash. He even issued an order forbidding SS men to carry truncheons. Hermann Langbein, a former prisoner at the Auschwitz infirmary, later said, "In general, one could establish that even those SS members, who were very bloodthirsty before, became a bit more reserved because they realized that their fanaticism would not necessarily be tolerated anymore." After the war, Kazimierz Gogawa, one of the prisoners who had been previously sentenced to death, but who was later pardoned by Arthur Liebehenschel, testified that Liebehenschel had been gentle and approachable for all the prisoners. Gogawa added that Liebehenschel even issued an order that the prisoners, when going off to work in working columns, would not have to doff their hats to the camp authorities during the winter. At the beginning of December 1943, Liebehenschel divorced his wife, Gertrud, with whom he had 4 children. He left the family because of his love affair with Anneliese Hüttemann, whom he knew from his days at the inspectorate, where she worked as a secretary of his boss. She had been transferred to the SD section in Klagenfurt shortly before Liebehenschel's divorce, but because her previous relationship with a Jew came to light, she was released. She moved to Liebehenschel's place of work, and they both applied to the Race and Settlement Main Office, the organization responsible for safeguarding the racial purity of the SS, to get married. They didn't get approval right away, but they persevered, and since Hüttemann was expecting a child, Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the SS, ultimately approved their marriage request. In May 1944, Liebehenschel lost his post at Auschwitz and was appointed commandant of what was left of the Majdanek camp. As Soviet troops approached the pre-war Polish border from the east, the SS authorities began to evacuate prisoners from Majdanek to the west. From January to May 1944, thousands of prisoners were transferred west from Majdanek to Auschwitz, Bergen-Belsen, Gross-Rosen, Ravensbrück, Natzweiler, and Płaszów. Liebehenschel oversaw the camp until the Germans abandoned it in late July. When Soviet liberators came on the night of the 22nd of July, 1944, they found fewer than 500 prisoners left in Majdanek. Due to incompetence by its deputy commander, Anton Ternes, Majdanek is the best preserved camp of the Holocaust. Ternes was given the task of destroying the evidence of crimes against humanity and genocide, but ran out of time due to his ineptitude and lethargy. He was unable to destroy the chimneys and set the camp on fire before the Soviet forces arrived at the camp outskirts. While Ternes was caught by the Soviets and executed in December 1944, Liebehenschel relocated to Trieste in Italy to the office of Odilo Globocnik, the SS and police leader for Operational Zone Adriatic Coast. However, he did not escape justice, and at the war's end, Liebehenschel was arrested by the US Army in Austria and extradited to Poland, where he was tried at the Auschwitz Trial, which began on the 24th of November 1947 and lasted 1 month. Not all of the testimony was in his favor. Bolesław Grausberg testified that in Auschwitz I, Liebehenschel chose him for a transport to the crematorium. Grausberg described the scene he witnessed prior to his transport departure with the following words. "The defendant Liebehenschel came to us, and seeing that I was supporting a sick man, he ordered that man to stand straight and his friends to let go of him. He didn't beat the sick man, but when the poor soul fell to the ground, he ordered him to get up and pick up his cap. The unfortunate man staggered when reaching for his cap and collapsed once more, and blood began to seep through the bandages on his neck. The old, practically untreated wound began to bleed. He died on his way to Birkenau. He was an elderly man, some 60 years old judging by his appearance." According to Władysław Fejkel, a former Polish political prisoner who assisted in the Auschwitz hospital, Liebehenschel, similarly to his predecessor, was not interested in matters concerning the prisoners' hospital at the main camp, of which he was in charge. During his time as commandant, there were no changes made to improve life for the sick prisoners. Food for the sick, medical supplies and sanitation equipment for the hospital were as mediocre as under Rudolf Höss. On the 22nd of December 1947, the Polish Supreme National Tribunal in Kraków sentenced Liebehenschel to death by hanging. On the 24th of January 1948, when he was executed, he was 46 years old. Liebehenschel's family was also affected by his dark past. After the war, Liebehenschel's first wife Gertrud was derided as the wife of an SS officer and died in 1966 in a mental institution after being diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Their daughter, Barbara, claimed that at one point, the family was in such need that she and a little friend sat begging in the street. Liebehenschel's second wife, Anneliese Hüttemann, later claimed that he would return home from the camp and cry before taking long showers and longer walks. There were no tears shed for Arthur Liebehenschel. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.